Good morning, members. It's the appointed time. I'll call the meeting to order. We have the quorum. For today's meeting, there are 4 papers to be discussed. Prior to the meeting, the administration provided information paper ECI bracket 2023-242 for members' perusal. It sets out the latest changes in directorate establishment approved since 2002 and the impact created by such changes. Members, please be reminded that if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to the items to be discussed today, please disclose the nature of such interest in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure before you speak on the item. Please also keep in mind Rule 84 of the Rules of Procedure regarding voting in case of direct pecuniary interest. Agenda item number 1, EC bracket 2023-24 number 1, proposed creation of 1 permanent post of Assistant Director of Municipal Services. Excuse me, I'm not infected with COVID, so don't worry. With immediate effect upon approval of the Finance Committee to take forward the planning and implementation of the expanded and new portfolios and initiatives in arts and culture, the administration consulted the Panel on Home Affairs, Culture and Sports on the 12th of December 2022. We have today Mr. Raislin Lau, Under Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism, Mrs. Vicky Kwok, Deputy Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism, Mr. Vincent Liu, Director of Leisure and Cultural Services, Ms. Eve Tam, Deputy Director of Leisure and Cultural Services, Culture, and Ms. Betty Au, Assistant Director of Leisure and Cultural Services Special Duties. Mr. Vincent Chang is the chair of the Panel on Home Affairs, Culture and Sports. Is he present today? Yes. Please give us a briefing. Please turn on the mic for Mr. Chang. Thank you, Madam Chair. At the meeting on the 12th of December 2022, members of the Panel on Home Affairs, Culture and Sports discussed the proposed creation of a permanent post of Assistant Director of Municipal Services in LCSD. Members were concerned about how the proposal could help to take forward arts and cultural development strategies in Hong Kong and implement Hong Kong's blueprint for long-term cultural development. The administration advised that the proposed Assistant Director would formulate the overall strategies and concrete proposals for exchanges in light of the target of developing Hong Kong into an East-Meets-West Center for international cultural exchange, and would coordinate the participation of relevant government departments and relevant stakeholders in the exchange work. The Assistant Director would take forward planning and implementation of the projects under the 10-year development blueprint, and in relation to the passing on and promotion of pop culture of Hong Kong, review the relevant policies. The administration undertook to provide more detailed information on the responsibilities of the post when submitting the proposals to ESC. Members inquired how the proposed Assistant Director would facilitate collaboration of the government with the tourism sector to promote local cultural tourism and enhance its efforts in cultural promotion work. The administration advised that the post holder would facilitate the integration and development of culture and tourism in various aspects by, for example, planning cultural facilities in Hong Kong with regards to the development needs of the tourism industry, enabling cooperation of local young artists with the internationally renowned artist who is appointed as ambassador for cultural promotion through the Ambassador for Cultural Promotion scheme to attract audience from the mainland and overseas to Hong Kong, thereby providing more opportunities for local artists to go global. Members supported the submission of the above staffing proposal to the ESC for consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chang. Which members would like to ask questions on this proposal? There are a number of members who would like to ask questions, including Mr. Stephen Ho, Mr. Vincent Chang, Mr. Shanghai Long, Mr. Kenneth Leung, Mr. Chen Yong, Mr. Tony Chang, Mr. Perry Yu, Mr. Chu Kwok Keung, and myself. There are quite a number of members who'd like to ask questions, 4 minutes each. Let's start with Mr. Stephen Ho. Thank you, Madam Chair. On the proposed creation of this permanent post by LCSD, the administration mentioned about the 10-year development blueprint. Well, national security is an important topic. There may be resistances and also political infiltration. I wonder if there will be guidelines to be set by the administration to draw the relevant boundary. Also, this post holder will have deep communication with the West Kowloon Cultural District. I was a member of the West Kowloon Cultural District Subcommittee. I understand that artwork could be invaluable and there may be cost overrun in terms of the procurement of artwork. Will the administration ensure the breaking even of the financial position of WKCD? Will the administration be able to interfere when there is cost overrun? Mr. Lau. Thank you, Madam Chair. We have the responsibility to uphold and guarantee national security. Since the enforcement of the national security law, the government requests each government department to take into consideration national security when we take forward our policies. We incorporate elements of national security in our procurement contracts, and also in our daily operation, we take into consideration national security as well. For instance, for library collections, all the new books to be incorporated in the library collection, we have to consider national security. We have to review our library collection to remove any collections that will endanger national security and remove them from the shelf. For development of arts and cultural programs, we will review carefully to ensure that the funding will not go to groups that endanger national security and to ensure that these programs will not disseminate messages that endanger national security. I'll invite my colleague to elaborate. Thank you, member, for asking about the national security. Regarding the financial position of WKCD, let me explain to you in detail. For the financial position of WKCD, it has various strategies to control cost and expenditure. There is a top-down resource distribution approach adopted by WKCD. Also, as mentioned by us previously, there will be some commercial developments in WKCD, and there is a BOT operation model which was approved last year. Under such business model, there will be extra resources allocated to WKCD to expand their source of revenue. For their financial status, well, WKCD has its own ways to cope with the financial operation. As mentioned by Undersecretary, the entire government, including CSTB and our stakeholders such as WKCDA, we strive to make sure that the funding will not go to groups that display soft resistance, and we strive to abide by the law, including the national security law, and we strive to objectively and neutrally take forward our work. Under CSTB, there are dedicated officers to work with WKCD, and in various fronts we monitor the work of WKCD. there is also a mechanism within CSTB for monitoring the promotion of work by LCSD and WKCD to create a better synergy so that we can collaborate with each other to better promote arts and culture. Also, we strive to ensure that the funding will not support any soft resistances. Madam Chair, my question was simple. If there are issues related to national security, there has to be a mechanism in place. For instance, in our library collection, there are books that endanger national security, but they have still not been removed from the collection. Madam Chair, let me clarify. For procurement of new books, we take into consideration national security before we include them in our collection. Once we discover that there are elements or suspicions of violating national security law, we immediately remove them from the library. It is only after we conduct a review that we make sure that the books are all right that we will put them back onto the shelves. Mr. Vincent Chang, I support this staffing proposal. We have to promote Hong Kong as an East-Meets-West center. There will be a lot of work to be done, and this has to do with our long-term development blueprint and the infrastructural development. I agree with what Mr. Stephen Ho said. In relation to soft resistance and national security, we have to serve as a gatekeeper. Mr. Chan Yong and I also talked to the administration in relation to the library collection. I hope the administration will take care of the issue as soon as possible. I have a question about Hong Kong's pop cultural festival. I went to the exhibition of Leslie Cheung, and there were some 100,000 visitors. A lot of tourists from mainland also went to the exhibition. There is also a pop culture gallery in the museum in Sha Tin, but the location is quite remote, and there may not be enough publicity on the administration's part. I hope that in the future there can be a pop culture museum in Hong Kong. What is the progress of it? I hope the administration can accelerate this work. I realize that mainland tourists who come to Hong Kong, they appreciate the pop culture elements in Hong Kong, and they take photos in various destinations. I wonder if the administration can expedite its work on building the pop culture museum. The other question is about the GBA Culture and Arts Festival. We went to GBA, including Foshan, for exchange. I appreciate the culture in relation to Kung Fu, and there were a lot of creative tourist destinations. I wonder if we can promote pop culture in Hong Kong to the GBA as well. Undersecretary. Thank you, Madam Chair. On the Pop Culture Museum, we are in the preliminary stage of conceiving the project. We hope that we will be able to receive tourists from the mainland and overseas, and that we can provide a location for them to understand more about pop culture in Hong Kong. In relation to the GBA Culture and Arts Festival, I'll defer to Mr. Vincent Liu to tell you more. On the Pop Culture Museum, we are proactively discussing the project with the related government departments too on the traffic facilities or management. We hope to include a pop culture gallery in our LCSD museum, and this pop culture gallery is expected to be commissioned next year. There are currently exhibitions in relation to Bruce Lee, and other celebrities. We hope to set up more of these pop culture galleries in the future. On the GBA Culture and Arts Festival, we are proactively discussing this with various cities in the mainland to see what kind of programs we can launch. And we also encourage them to hold their own festivals in their cities. We hope that there will be 100 programs to be held during the festival, and half of them will be held in Hong Kong. We hope that the popular programs in Hong Kong will be held in the mainland as well.
Any follow-up? No. Next, Mr. Shanghai Long. I support the creation of this permanent post, like what Mr. Chang said, as an East-Meets-West Center for International Cultural Exchange. We need a lot of concrete measures. I have 3 questions for the administration. This post is on cultural development. I would like to know what is our target for cultural development. In the past, we have a Canto pop culture. It is a leading cultural element in the Chinese-speaking community. How about in the future for Hong Kong? What will be our target for cultural development? Second, in order to create momentum for cultural development, be it music, arts, and other creative industry, we don't see a lot of nurturing opportunities for new blood. There are not a lot of training institutions focused on that. What do you think about that? Third, on art tech. This has been under discussion for a few years, but I still haven't seen any real progress. So I would like to know if you will have any dedicated staff members handling the development of arts technology. Undersecretary, thank you for your question. On the cultural development direction, our position as directed by the central government is to become an East-Meets-West Center for International Cultural Exchange, and 4 directions have been set up in the policy address. The first one is to set up world-class arts facility to nurture talents, to facilitate exchange with our mainland and overseas counterparts. We have set up relevant targets in paragraph 17 of the paper. Some of the major duties of the, should be paragraph 15. Some of the major duties for the proposed assistant director has been set out. And this year we have started work on promoting popular culture. We have started a popular culture festival. We want to promote the development of the industry. And we have set up a culture committee led by our secretary. Stakeholders from different sectors are part of the committee. We want to enhance the direction that we are taking in the creative industry. Second, on nurturing talents. It is one of the 4 directions that I've mentioned, and it is an important factor for the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. We are currently considering setting up a second campus in the Greater Bay Area. This is to nurture more students and to enroll talented students in the GBA in order to widen our talent pool. And within this year, the East Kowloon Cultural Center will be commissioned, and in it there is a arts tech. There is an academy for arts tech. And through the new facility, we want to facilitate further discussion on the utilization of arts tech. Thank you. Next, Mr. Kenneth Leung. Thank you, Chair. After reading the paper, I support the creation of this proposed post. Since we have the position of becoming an East-West Center for International Cultural Exchange, we need a dedicated team for that, and this position is dedicated for cultural development. But there are a few points that I would like the administration to clarify. One of the major duties of the post holder is to foster cultural exchange. One of the major activity is the GBA Culture and Arts Festival. For the post holder, is he responsible for the regular LCSC activities or to assist art groups or artists to conduct exchange programs in the GBA? Is it a regular practice to assist them to go to GBA to perform? Second, on arts tech, I'm glad to see that there are more trainee opportunities for our young people to participate in work relating to arts tech. I would like to know how many places there will be and what they will be able to learn. In the past, we could not introduce overseas arts tech gallery to Hong Kong, so I would like to take this opportunity for our young people to learn more about art tech. And other than nurturing talents, how can we integrate better with the industry in terms of utilizing arts tech? Other than LCSD's own gallery, how can we integrate better with the industry in the utilization of arts tech? Thank you, Chair. On GBA Culture and Arts Festival, we will promote it as it is one of our major events, and we will help our arts groups in performing in the Greater Bay Area. A few weeks ago, I led some art groups to Qianhai, together with the Hong Kong Development Council, and the post holder will continue to promote these programs in the GBA. I'll invite the director of LCSD to tell us more about that. Thank you, Mr. Liu. Exchange program in the GBA are of a regular basis. We want to encourage small or medium-sized arts group to perform outside Hong Kong. Our current concept is that we want to increase the percentage of performance overseas to 20%, from 25 to 30 performances, benefiting some 1,000 performers. For the East Kowloon Cultural Center, currently our goal is to have 50 courses offered relating to arts tech. They are offered to the sector and students, including sharing sessions and exchange sessions, benefiting 1,000 participants. And we also have some long-term courses spanning 2 years. We expect to start these courses in the second half of this year. Chair, one of my questions are unanswered in relation to communication with the sector. Yes, Chair, if I may. We have arranged many activities for the sector, including the I&T sector and the arts and culture sector. We want to introduce the utilization or the integration of arts and technology. We have organized a lot of activities such as guided tours to tell people more about new performance methods, and the number of participants are 7,000 to 8,000, and we will continue work on this front. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chen Yong. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Secretary. For the DAB, we support the we support the creation of this post for Hong Kong to for Hong Kong to continue to develop our culture. This is useful in attracting tourists. And I believe that this requires overall coordination of policies. So with the increased manpower, Hong Kong's cultural development can be enhanced as a whole. We can see benefits and progress. I hope that you can report to us your progress every now and then. This can help us determine whether or not to support these proposed creation. There are many activities in the works, such as the Pop Culture Festival, etc. Can you incorporate elements of national security? Arts span a lot of different areas, so we have to be extra careful not to allow any ideas endangering national security to infiltrate to the art sector. Otherwise, no matter how many staff members you add, you still can't control the narratives. And for traditional arts or traditional Chinese arts, including history relating to Chinese armies, etc., I believe that we should have a timetable so that we can achieve multiple results with the same approach. Any response? Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Mr. Yong, for your question. Like what Mr. Chen suggested, with the addition of this proposed post, the assistant director and the director themselves will have more capacity to handle strategic problems. And they can perform their duties better with more support. With the addition of this new assistant director, the existing assistant directors can focus more on their own duties, including reviewing the collection of museums and libraries. When issues arise, they will be able to handle them more promptly. Like I said, it is every Chinese citizen's responsibility to safeguard national security. In handling cultural development, we have considered the national security element as well. During procurement process, be it procurement of works or collection, we have considered elements of national security. I've given examples before. Let's take library collection as an example. If we have identified any possible threat to national security, they will be taken off the shelf immediately. Afterwards, we need time to review them to see whether or not we can put the books back on the shelf, because we need to determine whether the whole books whether there are any threats within the books to see if they endanger national security. For newer museums, one of them is the promotion for Chinese history and culture. The collection is related to Chinese history and promotion of Chinese culture. Details will be given in due course. Thank you, Chair. Next, Mr. Tony Chair. Thank you. In the 14th five-year plan, Hong Kong is set to be an East-West Center for international cultural exchange. This is a new task for us, so it seems only reasonable for us to create a post of assistant director. In the paper, there are 3 pages outlining the job duties of the proposed post. For us, or for members of the public, perhaps you should set out more quantitative duties so that it is easier for us to understand. The current term government places importance on increased effectiveness. If we refer to Enclosure 5, in the Leisure and Cultural Services Department, there are 8 assistant directors. There are 3 ADs who are responsible for the Hong Kong Island, Kowloon, and New Territories Administration section. For the other 3 existing ADs, they are in charge of Cultural Services Branch, Performing Arts, and Libraries and Development. We refer to paragraph 24. The number of museums have increased by 3, and number of libraries have increased by 14. It may not be fair to assess the effectiveness of these posts this way, but for the 3 ADs in charge of libraries and development, were they in charge of the development of libraries in the past 2 decades? Or are they on the development of cultural, or are they in charge of cultural development? For the new post, according to paragraph 15, there are many added duties. I suppose that some of these duties originally belonged to the other 3 ADs, so I wonder with the creation of the new post, will the other assistant directors be free up of their original duties and their workload will be decreased? Is it worth creating an additional post? Under Secretary.
Thank you, member, for the question. The first question is about KPI. As Mr. Tony Che said, the current term government emphasizes a result-oriented approach. So we try to translate our work into numbers to give people a better idea of what programs we have launched or will launch. In relation to the other questions, I'll defer them to LCSD. Director. Thank you, member, for the question. In relation to venue facilities, over the past 20 years, we saw an increase in the number of facilities. Be it the number of facilities and the number of staff, over the past 20 years, we saw a 20% increase, but we didn't see an increase in the number of directorate staff. In the future, in terms of arts and cultural facilities, there will be a 10-year development blueprint under which there will be 37 programs. There will be 23 more libraries, and there will be 7 new performing arts venues and 5 new museums. In the coming 10 years, we will see an increase of workload as a result. On libraries, we are taking forward some new work. For instance, we have been promoting e-book reading. Over the past few years, we saw an increase of 70% of e-books. We're developing a smart library system now. With this new system in place, in the future, there will be some new library machines for people to borrow books, and there will be new systems which will be commissioned starting from next year. And the officer who was originally responsible for library management will have room to take forward these new works. With the creation of the proposed post, it will help shoulder the burden of the assistant director responsible for performing arts. There will be new venues to be commissioned. For instance, the Saiwan-ho Civic Center and the Yau Ma Tei venue will be commissioned soon. And these works have to be overseen by the current assistant director. With a new directorate staff, the post holder will help shoulder the burden. From 2000 until now, it's been 23 years. I don't think the general public is satisfied with the work done by the 3 existing assistant directors. I hope that you will be able to boost your performances in the future. In the coming 3 to 5 years, the work to be handled by these assistant directors, can there be a timetable to show when they'll be able to finish the work so that we can keep track of their progress and see whether they are able to take forward the work according to the scheduled timetable? Director: yes. Would you like us to provide supplementary information after the meeting? I think it's best that you provide the information after the meeting and in the form of a written submission for us to have a clearer understanding of it. Next, Mr. Perry Yu. CSTB is proposing the creation of this post, and I think it is the first time that I see the administration showing the attachment of importance to the arts and cultural development. I think it is important to have this post created. When there was the restructuring of the administration, I actually proposed a high-level officer post to be created. Be it culture, arts, or tourism, I think there has to be a dedicated officer to take forward the relevant work. I think the government should create a platform for a better integration of arts, culture, and tourism. I think the government should see a better brainstorming in terms of the interaction between arts, sports, culture, and tourism. I hope the post holder can put more thoughts into integrating culture with tourism. Under the 10-year development blueprint for arts and cultural facilities, there will be some targets. For instance, every year it is hoped that there will be 8 million visitors to museums, and there will be 4.5 million visitors to arts and cultural facilities. How much percentage was for tourists or will be for tourists? How are you going to work with the tourism sector and the hotel sector to promote these museums and performing arts venues to the trade? Also, on docent services, I understand that The docent services provided by LCSD are all very professional. They were suspended during COVID. How are you going to further open up these services to tourist guides or members of the tourism trade so that there can be a more diversified development of our tourism sector? Undersecretary, thank you, Mr. Yu, for the suggestions and questions. We attach importance to the organic integration and synergy effect to be created by arts, culture, sports, and tourism. We did not set up a higher level unit to integrate these areas, but we've been doing it in our day-to-day operation or work. We try to organically combine all these areas to try to incorporate sports and culture into the development of tourism. We've been working hard on this, and we will make reference to Mr. Yu's suggestions and see if it is necessary for us to set up an advisory body in the future. On our future development of or planning of arts and cultural facilities, we take into consideration two factors. First, on the appearance of our facilities, we hope to make them more appealing and so that they can become popular tourist destinations. Also, we have to think about how we can offer opportunities to tourists from overseas and the mainland to get in touch with the facilities. We'll try to garner support from the trade. On docent services, I understand that LCSD has been providing training to our docent guides. We hope to enhance these training programs in the future so that tour guides can provide a better experience to our tourists when they visit our venue facilities. It's now my turn. Dr. Low, will you ask questions? Yes, okay. Please do not leave the meeting room because there aren't that many members asking questions. I hope that we'll have enough members to vote for the item. I give my support to the proposed creation of the post as I see an increase in the amount of workload. Will you promote an internal staff to take up this post, or will you hold open recruitment exercise? Do you have talents within your department to take up the post? According to paragraph 22 of the paper, it talks about non-directorate support. Will you add a non-directorate post? We talked about docent guides. Well, they have to be familiar with the culture as well. There have been media reports saying that tour guides have been giving false information to mainland tourists when they take the tourists to the various tourist destinations. I'll defer the question to Director. We will promote an officer internally to take up the post. For this proposed assistant director position, the post holder will liaise with government officers or mainland authorities on the development of arts and cultural facilities. It involves a lot of public works and resource allocation and land resources. We need someone who is familiar with the administrative procedure to take up the post. And this post holder will have a good understanding of the culture. Well, as you nurture these cultural talents, would you look at what they studied during university? Do you ask them to, say, for instance, study arts history in university? It depends on the post you are talking about. For posts within museums or art museums, the relevant officer will have to have certain understanding of arts. For those who are in charge of conservation, people will have to have the chemistry expertise to take up the post. Deputy Director can elaborate more on the entry requirements for staff who work in the arts and cultural sector. For non-directorate support, we expect to add a few new posts. For instance, on the work in relation to pop culture development, we rely on 2 to 3 staff members. And for GBA exchange on culture and arts, we also rely on the efforts of a few officers only. We will provide training to docent guides so that they have the relevant knowledge and understanding to provide docent services. Paragraph 22 talks about redeployment of 322 civil service posts. Can you tell us what posts you are going to add and what grades they involve? Can you provide the relevant information after the meeting? A lot of times, government departments, when they submit staffing proposal, they set out clearly what civil service posts will be involved in their redeployment. Thank you, Madam Chair. We did not set out the information clearly because we expect to add new posts to support the directorate staff. However, in this case, we may not have such clear information.
Next, Mr. Chu Kok-Keung. Thank you, Chair. Before the proposed creation of this post, have you considered redeploying existing staff or rearrange the division of labor so that the duties can be shared among existing staff members? If for every new duty we need to create a new post, then that is rather unreasonable. There are many new facilities, including the Hong Kong Palace Museum, the West Kowloon Cultural District, etc. So I would like to know what you think about that. Second, will this post holder be responsible for formulating policies that can facilitate arts development in Hong Kong? For many performing arts events, there are a lot of performers and participants. We don't have enough performing arts venues, and art groups have difficulty securing arts venues. So other than performing arts venues, will you formulate policies to assist these performers? I have received a comment from a certain art groups, a Chinese orchestra. They have difficulty securing venues for their performances. As you know, for Chinese orchestra, their instruments are quite large in size, so it is difficult for them to transport them every time they go out to perform. So is it possible to provide them with a venue to store their instruments? And on cultural development, very often it is focused on pop culture. There are different types of performances, and they are faced with the problem of not having enough audience. So do you have any plans to assist their development so that they can garner more support from audience? This can add entertainment elements to people's daily lives, and attract tourists. Under Secretary, thank you, Chair. On whether or not the new duties can be absorbed by existing staff members. Well, actually, before making this staffing proposal, we have very stringent internal guidelines. To review each individual post to ascertain actual needs. We need to be sure that the job duties cannot be done by redeployment of existing staff members. We've placed great importance on this procedure. As for assisting the development of performing art groups, other than existing mechanism of providing resources and plans to assist their development, we want to assist them in performing in the mainland. In Hong Kong, with the 10-year development blueprint for arts and cultural facilities, we want to provide more performing arts venues for performances. For school campuses, there is a scheme for schools to lend their facilities for use for arts groups to borrow. We also have to see whether the manpower is sufficient to handle this matter. As for the development of medium and small art groups, like I said, we have assisted them by providing them with performing opportunities in the mainland, and we also have plans in place to assist development of small art groups. We want to be able to nurture these small art groups from the beginning so that they can flourish into a well-developed art groups. Well, perhaps you haven't done well in terms of promotion as a primary school principal. I haven't heard of such a scheme, and from what I've heard, the arts group haven't received support in this matter. So perhaps you can enhance work in this aspect. Thank you. Well, not only for schools, we want to be able to open up more venues for arts groups and the general public for use. How can we support schools in opening up their facilities for arts groups to use? Thank you. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chair. I support the proposed creation of the post of Assistant Director of Municipal Services, D2 post. The post holder will take forward the planning and implementation of the expanded and new portfolios and initiatives in arts and culture. From what I've heard from other members, I believe that we all agree this is rather important work. The central government has entrusted us with this important mission, that is to become an East-Meets-West center for international cultural exchange. I must point out that we are delighted to have such a big encouragement from the central government. Hong Kong is well equipped to become the center of international cultural exchange. We have a lot of favorable conditions. However, we don't know how to utilize them. For Lingnan calligraphies, we have a few renowned masters. There is only a very small exhibition gallery in the Cultural Museum in Sha Tin. For other calligraphy masters, we do not provide them with any galleries to showcase their work. For Mr. Teng Hin Yong, his latest exhibition was held in Taipei. He did not have such a large-scale exhibition in Hong Kong. And Mr. Bruce Lee, a world-renowned legend, How come we do not have a Bruce Lee museum in Hong Kong? We don't need to have the museum at his old residence. It can be anywhere. How come we still don't have a Bruce Lee museum? Yesterday, on another meeting, it was mentioned that 4 industrial buildings will be recovered and used as residential, will be demolished and used as residential buildings. Some of the tenants were in quite a special trade. It affects some 2,100 tenants. The administration could not give us a clear answer. There were only some 90 applications to renew their contract. For the rest, I'm not sure where they'll go. Perhaps they'll go to private industrial buildings, or perhaps they'll retire. One of the tenants were in the musical instruments restoration trade. That is quite a special craftsmanship. Many movies come to Hong Kong. And it features a lot of special attractions. Let's take a lighthouse in Hokkaido, Japan as an example. After it was shown in a movie, many tourists flocked to it to take photos. I wonder if we can incorporate these special features in the promotion of our tourism. Thank you. Under Secretary, thank you, Dr. Low, for all your suggestions. Indeed, we can do better in many aspects. We have considered a lot of things that you have just suggested. Especially for museums, we believe that we do not have enough museums at the moment. We also do not have sufficient facilities to showcase our collection. In the artificial islands in Central Waters or in the cultural cluster in the Northern Metropolis, we will certainly consider that we want to create theme exhibitions or galleries for renowned artists in Hong Kong. As for movies set in Hong Kong, we are currently liaising with the Tourism Commission. We have a project called City in Time, featuring movies that are shot in Hong Kong. We want to feature these attractions so that tourists can come to Hong Kong and take photos there. Thank you. But for the Hong Kong Palace Museum, it is very popular among the public and tourists, with great collection and a beautiful exterior. And for M+ Museum, there is also a fame exhibition featuring Yayoi Kusama. Thank you. Under Secretary, well, other than the 2 museums that you have mentioned, we also have other museums featured in the top 100 museums in the world. Many exhibitions in place are well received by the public. Thank you. We still have 2 members wishing to speak, Ms. Lilian Kwok and Dr. Chow Man Kwong. Any other members who wish to ask questions or speak for the second time? If there is none, then we will vote after these 2 members speak. Thank you.
Ms. Lilian Kwok, thank you, Madam Chair. The administration talked about hardware and software. On hardware, we understand that there will be a number of new facilities to be commissioned and maintained. But for existing facilities, I hope the administration will have planned to upgrade them as well. for theaters and city halls or community halls, they are used as performing venues. But their facilities are very old for old modeled computers, and they're still using projectors. I hope that the administration can upgrade these facilities soon, otherwise it will affect the performances in terms of the visual effects that performers want to create. I also understand that there is a lack of exhibition venues. There are often large-scale exhibitions or one-off events. I remember that there are gallery spaces in MTR stations. For university students or secondary school students, they also create a lot of artwork, but these artwork or pieces are unable to be displayed in the community, be it housing estates or cafes with a lot of young people who are interested in arts and culture. I think they can be used as venues to display the artwork of students, to create an atmosphere to promote local arts and culture. Thirdly, we've been talking about Hong Kong developing itself into an East meets West center. On the distribution of resources, I think we've been focusing mostly on promoting Western culture. I hope that the future post holder can adjust the amount of resources we put into promoting Chinese culture. We should promote and learn about Chinese culture. It is an important element for us being Chinese people. Cultural security is one of the 16 securities that we have been talking about. On arts and culture promotion, I wonder if the work to be taken forward can be made more organized. With the support of the administration, I believe that there will see a better development of arts and culture in Hong Kong. In terms of software, we need to think about training and nurturing of talents. Arts tech has been developed in other places around the world. They use arts tech in drawing. But we're not doing enough in Hong Kong. I think we have to stay on top of the trend around the world, because development of arts tech has been mature in other places. Ms. Lillian Kwok, please leave enough time for the government officials to respond to your questions. I hope that more resources can be allocated to young people for their development. Undersecretary, thank you, Ms. Kwok, for the questions. On upgrading existing facilities, LCSD has been taking forward the relevant work. As mentioned, the Saiwan Hall Civic Center will be refurbished and reopened, and there will be upgrading of other facilities as well. Under the budget, a dedicated funding has been allocated to upgrading various facilities, and the relevant works are underway. And we will take into consideration Ms. Kwok's suggestions to see how we can make use of various venues to display the artwork of Hong Kong people. We have the Cantonese Opera Fund. We also have various support given to art groups that engage in performances in relation to Chinese culture. As to the question about allocating resources into promoting Western culture, well, a lot of the performances may be in the form of Western culture, but there is also a lot of content related to Chinese culture. For instance, in the ballet performance, there can be incorporation of elements of Chinese culture as well. On nurturing talents, we will review the latest situation. The post holder will put in effort into assisting art groups and schools to launch training. On nurturing young people, of course, we want to provide more opportunities for young people to perform. Last year, we appointed a cultural ambassador, and the ambassador made the arrangement to bring young people to overseas and to perform, and the ambassador also helped arrange internship opportunities for young people. The ambassador has the network with the relevant schools and institutes to make these arrangements. Lastly, we have Mr. Chow Man Kong. Thank you, Madam Chair. The proposed post is Assistant Director of Municipal Services. I wonder why it's called Assistant Director of Municipal Services, because the relevant bureau was disbanded in 1999. We will see the commissioning of various arts and cultural facilities. And we see that various staff members in LCSD have been transferred to the relevant division. By internal promotion or redeployment or through recruitment, we'll be able to hire such staff to take up the relevant posts. Instead of creating a permanent post, will you ask for funding to support the development of arts and culture in Hong Kong? Would that be more practical? Under Secretary. For the post title, it is a historical issue. The LCSD back then and FEHD back then were restructured from another bureau, and so a lot of the titles followed that we had in the past. We will have the relevant discussion within the administration to see if there is a need to change the title. I'll defer the other question to Director of LCSD. Director. On recruitment of talents. Currently, within the departments, there is enough manpower. We do not have a lot of staff who resigned or quit the post. Within the department, there is training every year, and we organize various training programs to our new recruits, and we will continue to take forward the work. Do you have any thoughts on funding schemes? Apart from taking forward work in relation to promoting pop culture, the post holder will oversee other work areas as well, including the 10-year development of arts and cultural services, and also bringing art groups to the mainland to perform and create more job opportunities to them, etc. And it is appropriate for us to have someone internally to take up the post who is familiar with arts and cultural development in Hong Kong. It seems unnecessary for you to create the post if the post holder will only oversee the development of pop culture. I hope that you will launch more funding schemes. We have various funding schemes to promote pop culture development. For instance, in film industry, creative arts industry, and in manga and TV, etc. We support emerging young talents to join the industry. And we also, through the Hong Kong Arts Development Council offer assistance to various art groups. We will take into consideration Mr. Chow's suggestions to see how we can do better. All members have asked their questions, and I'll put the item to vote. Members who support the proposal under EC bracket 2023 to 24 number 1, please raise your hands. All members have raised their hands. Any objections from members? Ms. Eunice Yong? I support the proposal. So no objections from members. So this item is endorsed. Now, voting on whether recommendation for further discussion of the item by the Finance Committee should be made. Members, please note that according to paragraph 2 of the Establishment Subcommittee procedure, members of the subcommittee have to recommend whether paper EC bracket 2023 to 24 number 1 should be further discussed by the Finance Committee. In accordance with paragraph 40A of the Establishment Subcommittee procedure, I now put to vote the following question: that the Establishment Subcommittee recommends further discussion of the proposal it endorsed in EC bracket 2023 to 24 number 1 by the Finance Committee. I'd like to remind members that if the question is endorsed, it means the subcommittee recommends this item to be further discussed by the Finance Committee. If it is voted against, that means the subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of this paper by the Finance Committee. Those who are in favor of the question or motion, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. All members voted against of this question, so no further discussion of this paper is required by the Finance Committee. Agenda item 2. Proposed creation of a new 1 rank grade and 1 permanent post of Commissioner for Industry, Innovation and Technology D4, and redeployment of 1 permanent post of Administrative Officer Staff Grade C D2 in the Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, with immediate effect upon approval of the Finance Committee to enhance the innovation and technology ecosystem and promote new industrialization as set out in the Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Development Blueprint. The administration discussed this proposal with the relevant panel. We have with us today Mr. Eddie Mack, Permanent Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry, and Ms. Carrie Chang, Deputy Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry. The chair of the panel is not present in the meeting today. I will report to you the gist of discussions of the panel now. At the meeting on the 21st of March 2023, members of the panel on Commerce, Industry, Innovation and Technology discussed the administration's proposed creation of a new 1 rank grade and permanent post of Commissioner for Industry and redeployment of a permanent post of AO Staff Grade C in the ITIB to promote new industrializations. Members supported the submission of the proposal to the ESC for consideration. Members welcomed the proposal to actively promote new industrialization in Hong Kong. Members were of the view that the proposed commissioner should work closely with the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises to attract sizable and competitive technology companies from the mainland to establish their presence in Hong Kong. The commissioner should maintain close communication with members of the industry and pay attention to the latest development of the emerging technology industries. Members were concerned whether the remuneration of the post, that is the pay for a D4 officer, would be competitive enough by market standard to attract someone with professional background and experience who is considered as a talent from the industry to join the government. The administration gave its replies in relation to members' concerns and questions at the meeting. 6 members have pressed the button to speak. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Dr. Chang Man Kong, Mr. Tang Fei, Dr. So Chen Wing, Mr. Shanghai Long, and myself.
First, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chair. I support the proposed creation of the permanent post of Commissioner for Industry. The current term government has finally taken a more proactive approach in the promotion of new industrialization. This also ties in with the ecosystem of innovation and technology. We should not stop at research and development or patents development. We need to utilize these new technology and commercialize them and turn the technology into products. Although factories in Hong Kong have largely moved to the mainland or to Southeast Asian countries, we can have a global eco chain. But for financing and promotion of such products, Hong Kong still plays an important role in the global market. For example, the smartphone that I'm holding here, the monitor of this smartphone is developed by a Hong Kong company, which is also a holder of many patents, design patents. But like I said, we have a lot of favorable conditions. However, we don't know how to utilize them. One unforgettable example is that soon after the establishment of the Hong Kong SAR, one of the largest chip manufacturers from Taiwan would like to come to Hong Kong and set up factories here. Members of the trade and myself supported this very much. If this chip manufacturer came to Hong Kong and set up their offices, this can have a synergy effect on the whole eco chain. However, we could not offer them any favorable treatment, etc. At the time, Shanghai was able to recruit this manufacturer there. So in a technology park in Shanghai, there is currently a cluster for circuit manufacture. I believe that we need to learn from this experience. What can we do in the coming days? We are currently facing shortage in talents and land. So how can we address the talent shortage in the midst of the new industrialization? I believe you need to consider that. Thank you, Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Lo, for your support for the innovation and technology sector in Hong Kong. You are correct in saying that we should not just be satisfied with the research and development. We need to promote the production to midstream and downstream, that is the production of actual products. This is one of the major directions set out in the I&T blueprint, that is to promote new industrialization. For this new post, we want to be able to liaise with different stakeholders and to promote different policies in promoting new industrialization. Dr. Lo has mentioned chip manufacturers, it is indeed a very important industry. As mentioned in the budget this year, we plan to set up a microelectronics research center. We hope that through the creation of this new post of Commissioner for Industry, we can streamline the process of promoting new industrialization. Thank you. Next, Dr. Chow Man Kwong. I've been very concerned about the industrialization of Hong Kong. In the past 2 weeks, together with the Chief Executive and the LegCo President, we conducted visits to the GBA. One thing that we observed was how to commercialize the R&D results. Last June, when we were scrutinizing the reorganization of the government, we stressed that the I&T sector should not simply focus on the manufacturing sector. We also need to look at advanced manufacturing. In the mainland, there are factories who originally started as electric fan makers, but now they are advanced manufacturers. So I believe that this is something you need to think about carefully. How can we transition from traditional manufacturers to advanced manufacturing? Perhaps the post holder should not be someone promoted within the civil service. Within the Bureau, how can we promote the upgrade and transition of traditional manufacturers to advanced manufacturing? And the Chief Executive has said that we need to compete for enterprises. How will the Commissioner promote this? Among the 8 UGC-funded universities and other tertiary institutions, their participation is very important. We can't just subsidize 6 universities like we did in the past. What do you think about that? Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Dr. Chow. LegCo members went to the Greater Bay Area with the Chief Executive and witnessed the commercialization of R&D results, and I respect your views very much. Through the creation of the post of Commissioner for Industry, we want to promote new industrialization. The post holder will also need to assist the transition of traditional manufacturing to advanced manufacturing through the use of technology. As for what kind of candidates we are looking for, you're right in saying that we need someone with experience in the sector, especially experience in assisting the manufacturer to transform. We want to be able to recruit such candidate to fill this post. That's why we are looking to fill this post through open recruitment. We want to widen our talent pool and attract candidates with the appropriate experience. In the I&T blueprint, one of the major directions is to enhance the ecosystem of the I&T industry. with the creation of this post, the post holder will need to liaise with the sector so that they can understand the needs of the trade and what kind of policies will be helpful to them. This is very important in the formulation of our policies. Thank you. Mr. Tan Fei. Thank you, Chair. I have two questions. They are of a similar nature. If we refer to enclosure 1 to 2 of the government's paper, the Commissioner for Industry and the Principal Assistant Secretary, that is, I don't see any major differences between their major duties. They focus on life and health technology, artificial intelligence, and data science. They are rather similar. The difference is with the verb's use. For the Commissioner, the duty is to steer the strategies. As for the Principal Assistant Secretary, their duty is to develop and review policy initiatives. What are their actual differences? If you refer to the English version, to steer the strategies and to develop and review policy initiatives. What are their actual differences? Hong Kong is a free market. The government has very limited intervention. This is different from the practice in the mainland, where the government leads the development of the policy direction, including matching of resources and formulation of policies, etc. So during the process of new industrialization, how will you actually go about it? And how is it different from our traditional approach of non-intervention? Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question. Mr. Tang asked about the division of labor between the Commissioner for Industry and the Principal Assistant Secretary. For the Commissioner, the post holder's main duty is to lead in the formulation of policy, while the Principal Assistant Secretary's major duty is to develop policies. We want to be able to invite people with experience in the sector to help us steer the strategies of new industrialization. For the post holder, they may not be familiar with government procedures, etc. That is why we will redeploy a Principal Assistant Secretary to support the Commissioner for Industry. This can help integrate the experience of the INT sector and experience from the government to promote new industrialization. If Mr. Tang has read the Hong Kong INT development blueprint, the current term government hopes to promote the commercialization of INT. This is something that is not done by previous governments. We want to be able to promote INT products from upstream to midstream and downstream activities. How are we going to do that? With the help of the Commissioner for Industry, we'll be able to integrate policies. And together with other government departments, together with the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises, We'll look into how we can attract strategic enterprises to come to Hong Kong and set up offices. Thank you.
Dr. So Chung Wing. Thank you, Madam Chair. I give my support to the proposal. The administration was responding to Mr. Tang's question, and the administration said the commissioner will help the government promote new industrialization. Isn't the commissioner part of the government system? From what I hear, you said the commissioner will have the relevant knowledge in industrial development, and that the proposed AO staff will be within the government. My question is, according to your paper, the commissioner will oversee a lot of work, including promoting the upstream and downstream development and of the ecosystem, and also attract competitive enterprises to establish their presence in Hong Kong, etc. A lot of work will be involved if you want to achieve these. According to your proposal, there will be a commissioner and a AO staff plus 4 civil servants. With a team of 6 people, can you achieve what you want to do? I think you have to have a smaller division of work. Mr. Tang asked if you will take an administrative-led approach to promote new industrialization, or will you adopt the positive non-interventionism approach? My second question. Will you set KPIs to assess the performance of the commissioner? Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. So, for the comments. We value the views shared by Dr. So. He asked about whether the commissioner will be part of the government team. Yes, the commissioner will be. We hope that within ITIB, the government can coordinate various government departments and NGOs to take forward his or her work. Apart from ITIB, the entire team will work with the commissioner to achieve our targets. Also, we'll work with the science parks and also public bodies as well as NGOs to promote new industrialization. It is a small team, but the purpose of having this commissioner is to lead the entire team to achieve our goals. Dr. So also asked whether we will take an administrative-led approach to promote new industrialization. We promulgated the INT blueprint last December, and it sets out clearly our directions in INT development, that is to promote new industrialization in Hong Kong. It is a clear direction. Now we have to think about how we can take forward our work. A lot of work will be entailed, and part of the duties of the commissioner is that we want to have someone within our system to take forward the work in a dedicated manner. However, we also hope that the colleagues in our bureau will also help promote new industrialization and promote the transformation of the industry. On the question about KPI, on promoting new industrialization, over the past few months, we have set a number of KPIs. For instance, in the 2022 policy address, the chief executive mentioned 2 KPIs that are related to new industrialization. One of them is about how we can attract representative enterprises to establish their businesses in Hong Kong. We have set a clear target and number. For instance, 20 enterprises will be attracted. That is part of our goal. Also, the other KPI mentioned in the policy address is that in supporting reindustrialization, we hope to set up some smart production lines. We want to increase the number from 30 to 150 in 5 years' time. These are all targets we want to achieve, and the commissioner to be recruited will become part of our team. And we hope the commissioner can take forward his or her work by following our development directions. Mr. Shanghai Long, I give my support to the staffing proposal. There are 3 reasons. First, we think that we need the relevant manpower to take forward the work. Secondly, KPIs were mentioned. It was said that the GDP from INT sector should be over 5%. So there should be an 8 to 10-fold growth. I hope that the relevant staff will take forward the work as soon as possible. We saw the establishment of the new ITIB, so INT development is one of an important targets of the current term government. So I see the rationale behind the creation of these 2 posts. According to the job descriptions, it is shown that the commissioner will have his or her duties overlap with the AO staff. I see that the commissioner will oversee the policy work. We are lacking of a policy unit. The administration has to take into consideration changes in the INT sector. I saw that there was a lack of policies. Well, we have the development blueprint promulgated with 4 development directions set out in the blueprint. How can we take forward the work? I hope that with the commissioner taking up the post, we will also have a technology policy research unit or research center to focus on the policies. Permanent Secretary, I thank Mr. Shang for supporting our proposal and our work. Mr. Shang mentioned about our KPIs. That is, INT sector should account for 5% of our GDP. In our blueprint promulgated last year, we set out 4 development directions, and one of the directions is about the percentage of INT sector in our GDP. We hope to boost the percentage from 1% in 2022 to 5%. It's not just a 5-fold growth because our GDP keeps growing. The contribution of INT sector to the local economy will keep increasing. Mr. Shang mentioned about how we can improve our policy research work. Within ITIB, we have colleagues dedicated to policy research. We also collect views from public bodies and also INT sector as well as INT companies. They conducted researches on reindustrializations, so we canvassed their views as well. In March, we set up a committee chaired by the Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry. The committee comprises of members from the academic sector and other sectors. We hope that the committee members can give us advice on how we can take forward the 4 development directions and 8 major strategies so that we can improve our effort. Now it's my turn. I also speak in support of the staffing proposal. The salary of this D4 officer will be $242,000 approximately to $257,000. Would that be enough for you to recruit someone to take up the post? Will you be able to conduct the recruitment exercise overseas? Will you have to follow the basic law to hire someone who is a Hong Kong permanent resident? We take into consideration the significance of the duties of the Commissioner, and part of the duties of the Commissioner is to coordinate various government departments and also take into consideration policies suggested by industry members. It's not a D6 post to lead hundreds and thousands of staff. After consideration, we think that D4 is an appropriate level set for this post. As mentioned, we hope to conduct open recruitment exercise to hire someone suitable. Within the government, we do not have a lot of people who are familiar with the development of the industry, so we want to attract someone from the trade to take up the post. Madam Chair asked about the salary. So the annual salary will be about $3 million. Compared with the salary or remuneration of those who are in the management level in the private sector, the salary we're proposing is not particularly high. However, the Commissioner will take forward work that has an impact on the development of the local economy. The current term government strives to take forward the work in this area. We gained the support of the trade as well as members of the Legislative Council in promoting new industrialization. I believe those who are interested in promoting new industrialization will apply for the job. So in terms of the overall package, there is certain level of attractiveness to this position. Of course, this commissioner cannot be of a higher rank than you. Well, there is a range of salary that you're proposing, $242,000 to $257,000. Is the increment of salary included in the range? Well, you talked about mission. Well, if the candidates only focus on mission, then you probably won't have to offer such a high salary. For the Oasis officer post, you proposed a D6 level. But this is a D4 post. Under our recruitment system, when we hire someone from outside, we usually have the candidate or post holder start from the entry-level pay point. But there is room, I believe, to adjust the salary or pay. It depends on the qualifications of the applicants. As Madam Chair mentioned, will this D4 officer be lower than the D6 officers that we usually see? Well, we set the level at D4. After consideration, and the commissioner will be part of our team. And the work to promote new industrialization will be shared by all staff in the Bureau. Will the post holder be on contract terms? Usually, we will sign an agreement contract, which is usually a 3-year contract. How about the medical benefits? They will be in line with the entry or the benefits offered to civil servants. We will use the terms for D4 officers to hire the commissioner. So that person will also get a 50% gratuity. Is that right? Yes. We will use agreement terms to hire the person.
Next, Mr. Tony Tse. Thank you, Chair. It is very important to have the creation of this post of Commissioner for Industry to promote new industrialization. This can create high-quality employment opportunities that we have been looking for. Since this is such an important post, when you are setting the salary level, as set out in paragraph 11 of your paper, is it possible for us to find a high-quality candidate to fill this post? This is quite an important post because they have to see the global they have to stay on top of the latest technological developments at global, regional, and national level. So you are confident in securing a high-quality candidate for this post. Not long ago, we discussed the creation of a commissioner for Chinese medicine development that was set at D2. And for West Kowloon Cultural District, a proposed post was set at D3. So my concern is whether or not you will be able to attract talents to fill this post. Permanent Secretary seems quite confident, so I'm in support of that. When we talk about new industrialization, we could not see any actual results after the establishment of this post, which is a dedicated post. How will the post holder liaise with the Industry and Trade Commission? And how will the Division of Labor be? Permanent Secretary. Thank you. But I have just gone into details regarding the rank of this new Commissioner for Industry. We believe that this belongs to a rather senior level. It is at a senior directorate level. The duties that they will undertake will have serious impact on Hong Kong's overall development, and we are confident that we'll be able to identify suitable candidate for the position. Mr. Tse asked about the differences in duties for the Commissioner and the Commissioner for Trade and Industry, the Director of Trade and Industry. In the paper, it is mentioned that the Commissioner will focus on the strategies on new industrialization, focusing on industries such as life and health technology, artificial intelligence, etc. And the post holder will also assist traditional industry to transform into a high quality and high value added industries through the use of technology. For the Director of Trade and Industry, the post holder focuses on providing support to small and medium-sized enterprises to expand their businesses outside Hong Kong and to provide the information that they need. And the director also has various duties involving trade, including multilateral trade organizations and promoting trade agreements with other jurisdictions. So that is the major difference between the job duties of the Director of Trade and Industry and the Commissioner for Industry. They have clear division of labor and they will complement each other in assisting the trade. Thank you. Mr. Shanghai Long, second round. Do we have other members wishing to speak? We would like to be able to finish this paper today. Any? Well, if there is none, well, Mr. Perry Yu, first round. Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, then I have to extend the meeting by 15 minutes to complete the discussion. Mr. Perry Yu, thank you. For the creation of the post of Commissioner for Industry, to enhance the innovation and technology ecosystem and to assist traditional manufacturers to transform into advanced manufacturing, I'm in favor of this proposal. However, like some other members here, I am quite concerned about the requirements that are set out in the paper. If they have to stay on top of the latest technological developments at the global level, provided the salary given, I believe that can be a challenge. If you cannot identify a suitable candidate, will the post be left vacant? Do you have a timetable in place? Within how long do you have to fill this post? Permanent Secretary. Chen. Thank you, Mr. Yu and other members for supporting the creation of this post and for your support in our decision to hire someone from the outside to fill this post. We are confident in identifying a suitable candidate. We can see that in the industry, there are lots of people with experience in assisting the transformation of traditional manufacturing. And there are people with knowledge of the industry. These are people that may be suitable candidates. And there are also candidates who are currently in public organizations and who have experience in assisting the transformation of the manufacturing industry. These people have a wide network. Other than the salary, what's appealing to a candidate should be the fact that the post holder will be able to create impact on Hong Kong's development. With support from LegCo and from the public, the Commissioner will be able to fulfill the vision to help Hong Kong develop. So we are confident in recruiting a suitable candidate. Permanent Secretary, I would like to know more about the recruitment process and the relevant timetable. Thank you, Mr. Yu. Today, we hope that our proposal can be endorsed by the Establishment Subcommittee, and the proposal will be submitted to the Finance Committee. If I remember correctly, the earliest possible time is early June. If it is endorsed by the Finance Committee, then we want to be able to start the recruitment process. We want to finish the recruitment by within 2 to 3 months. Of course, we have to accommodate the candidate to see when he or she will be available. We'll be pushing ahead at full steam because there is not any moment to waste. Next, Mr. Shanghai Long, second round. Thank you, Chair. This is my second time speaking here. I would like to call for the support of the creation of this post. I seldom see the administration undertake to start the recruitment process on the day that the proposal is endorsed by the Finance Committee. I have a question regarding policies. Just then, the Permanent Secretary has mentioned that an Innovation, Technology and Industry Committee has been set up in March, where the experts serving on the committee are all from Hong Kong. But Hong Kong's main market is outside of Hong Kong, be it the mainland or overseas countries. So I would like to suggest that we should include more experts from outside Hong Kong, such as experts from the mainland. So that we can absorb talents not only from Hong Kong, but also from the mainland and from the Bay Area as well. This is my suggestion. Thank you. Any response, Permanent Secretary? Thank you, Mr. Shang, for your support. I believe that your view is in line with what we have set out in the paper to promote new industrialization. We have to understand the local industry. We need to know the kind of support that they need to move forward. What's more important, as suggested by some members, is that the Commissioner should have knowledge of the development of Hong Kong and our country, and also of the world. from the Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Development Blueprint. We want to be able to enjoy the support from our country and going global. Our market is located outside Hong Kong. We want to be able to contribute to not only Hong Kong but the development of our country. We have noted what Mr. Shan suggested, and we will definitely take it into consideration.
多謝主席。
Mr. Tang Fei. Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand that when assessing the KPIs, the administration will take into consideration new industrialization. But according to the Census and Statistics Department, there isn't a way to calculate our GDP with the consideration of new industrialization. Should it fall under the category of communications and technology when we calculate the GDP? Permanent Secretary. Under our INT development blueprint, we propose 4 development directions or indicators. One of them is sector. From 2022, it accounts for 1% of the GDP, and in 5 years' time, we hope to boost the figure to 5% of the GDP. No other questions from members. Now I put the item to vote. For those who are in favor of the proposal set out in EC bracket 2023-24 number 2, please put up your hands. Members all raise their hands, so this proposal is endorsed. Now, voting on whether recommendation for further discussion of the item by the Finance Committee should be made. Members, please note that according to paragraph 2 of the Establishment Subcommittee procedure, members of the subcommittee have to recommend whether paper EC bracket 2023-24 number 2 should be further discussed by the Finance Committee. In accordance with paragraph 40A of the Establishment Subcommittee procedure, I now put to vote the following question: that the Establishment Subcommittee recommends further discussion of the proposal it endorsed in EC bracket 2023-24 number 2 by the FC. I'd like to remind members that if the question is endorsed, it means the subcommittee recommends this item to be further discussed by the FC. If it is voted against, that means the subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of this item by the FC. Those in favor, please put up your hands. Those voting against, please put up your hands. Most members vote against. That means the Finance Committee will not have further discussion on this paper. The next meeting will be this Friday at 8:30 a.m. Please be punctual. Thank you.